Hey, Warrior Saints, Father Chris here, and welcome to our Crucifixional live stream. Happy Tuesday, glad to have you beautiful people in with us. We started yesterday with a conversation about the crisis of masculinity and how the world has become like so insanely upside down. So much so that the October Playboy bunny on the cover is a dude. What? I ain't kidding. It's a dude. Interestingly enough, that's flipped the other way in a TBS show called Chad. Story about a little 14-year-old boy, 14, 15 years old immigrant from Persia going through the trials of high school and a divorced family and so on. And it was uncomfortable to watch the commercials. I didn't watch the show even, but the commercials made me uncomfortable. And I figured out it's because the actor playing the little boy is a chick. So you got a dude on Playboy and a chick playing a boy. And you're like, what? No wonder there's a crisis in masculinity. And the definitions, I said the disfigurement of what true man is to be like is being distorted by society, the world, media, whatever you want to say. The picture that's being presented to our young men of what it means to be a man is one that is so aberrant that we end up with 30-year-old boys who live in their mama's basement, eating pizza, watching porn, playing video games, with no job, no woman, no work, no future, no hope. It's a crisis, and we all know it. And you may want to say, oh, Father Chris, you're a misogynist and you're a caveman. You're wrong. And you know that I'm not wrong, right? Like I said before, I'm not interested in being politically correct, just correct. And there is a crisis of masculinity. The gospel, however, being a warrior saint, is a teaching that can help males become men, real men, God-fearing men, Christ-like men, warrior saints. It's a very different picture of masculinity than the world wants to paint about how bad masculinity is. And we said yesterday in our intro that there were four main pillars that help establish, define, build a warrior saint. And the four are king, knight, mentor, lover. Today we're going to talk about being a king. And to do so, we got to go all the way back to the Old Testament. Now, in the Old Testament, there's the story of the Exodus, right? And in this story, we're going to see unfold before us what it means to be a king, not in the right way. God pulls his people out of Egypt, out of slavery, through his servant Moses. And just before they enter into the promised land, at the end of the book of Leviticus, God says to the people, I will be your God and dwell among you, and you will be my people. Right? This is a very strange phenomena for the ancient world, because in their mindset, the deity, the God, remember, we've talked about this before, that in the ancient world, all the cities and states had like multiple gods. There wasn't just, monotheism didn't exist. They didn't understand that yet. So everybody had a god. And their God never dealt with the people. He or she would have a king who would deal with the people, and the people would deal with the king who would go back to the deity, and it was like kind of like this up and down type of communication plan. God says, I'll be right in you. I may use my prophets to speak my words, but I'll be right among you. And the people are like, yay, God, right? Different than the worldly setup scenario. Different. He then puts them into the promised land and says, right, I'm going to be your king. You'll be my people. Do what I tell you. Things will go well. And they're like, yay, God. And then all of a sudden, 1 Samuel, what happens? The people, they say, we want a king, right? Samuel, you're the prophet. Your sons who are going to lead after you, they're corrupt. We want a king, and we want to be like the other nations. I mean, Samuel's mind was blown because they just said, yay, God, and now they're saying, no, God, right? This is exactly what's happening here. And Samuel says, God, this is crazy. He got mad. He got upset, Samuel. And God says, give him a king. They rejected not you. They rejected me from being king, says God. But first, tell them what it will be like. And then in 1 Samuel chapter 8, there is this long litany that Samuel unloads on the people of what will happen. The king will be selfish. He will take your sons and make them his soldiers. He will take your sons and make them his slaves. He will take your sons, they will plow your field. He will take your daughters and they will be cooks and perfumers. He uses this word. He takes your children and your people and makes them his slaves. He's going to take your land, a tenth of it, for himself. He's going to take your crops for himself. He's going to do all things for himself. And the people, after hearing that, They said, no, we want a king to govern us and to go fight our battles so that we can be like everybody else, right? You could imagine Samuel was like, what is the matter with you people, right? Because, like, you got it. So the challenge then of kingship, and let me just finish with this. Interestingly enough, if you read the rest of the stories of Samuel, they immediately elect a king named Saul, right? Saul. And in Hebrew, his name has a meaning. I'll come to that. Now, Saul, unfortunately, as it unfolds, he does the very things that Samuel prophesied. He takes all of their children and their people and their money and all of it for himself. Even there's a moment where he's supposed to go out and fight on behalf of his people when they're battling the Philistines, and there's a big one, a scary one, named Goliath. And what does Saul do? Saul, who was supposed to go out and lead them in battle, to be the first on the front of the lines, he runs away, right? So he doesn't even do what they asked him to do. They asked for a king, and they ended up with Saul. And interestingly enough, his name, as I said before in Hebrew, it means asked for. That's what his name means. It's as if God is saying, hey people, I was your king. I'm the biggest badass there is out there. I fed you in the wilderness. I gave you water to drink. I can conquer all your enemies. But you didn't want me. You asked for a king to be like the nations. And so here's Saul. It's what you asked for. It's what you got, right? So you can see that kingship, according to man, ends in failure. Doesn't mean we don't have earthly leaders. I got it. We do. We have the President of the United States. I get it. Other countries, we all have leaders. I get it. But it is to say that the modus operandi of kingship, according to man's self, inside every man is a desire to be a king, to rule his home, his business, his community, to lead, to teach, to love. This is man's burning desire to have a purpose, to be filled with character, to be an honorable, honest, decent man who serves other people, right? How do we then find that alternative for being a good king, a Christ-like king? To do that, instead of following Saul, we have to follow Christ. That's it. You have to be a warrior saint, which means you have to live a crucifixional life, right? And I'm not going to go into too much detail about how to do that, but the truth of the matter is to be a king, to solve the problem of earthly kingship, which is selfish, and learn how to be selfless, we have to first learn what it means, and then how to be crucifixional, how to be a warrior saint. To do that, I'm telling you now, I've put together, Greg and the rest of our team, we have put together, forgive me if I boast, an incredible program, an incredible, I don't know what to call it, but a track, a design, a plan, a line, a brain dump, I don't even know what else to call it, an incredible teaching tool to help us as we're striving to become kings and knights and mentors and lovers, to be warrior saints, not to be like the world, but to overcome this crisis of masculinity by living a crucifixional life. This program, it's going to change lives. It's already starting to change lives. Look, I know it's already changed my life. By me working towards this, I can see I'm getting a little bit better than I ever was yesterday, and God willing, I'll be better tomorrow than I am today. And it can be the same for you. For those who are gentlemen seeking to be much more, for those who are gals who want your gentlemen or your sons to be much more, I want you right now to visit warriorsaints.org. Go to our website. And there, you're going to be able to subscribe to the Way of the Warrior Saint. You can get a couple of things. One, there you can get our book, which will be very, very beneficial and helpful as you strive to overcome the crisis of masculinity. But also to subscribe to our library, the Way of the Warrior Saint. And this is now going to be focused, totally dedicated towards becoming crucifixional warrior saints, strong kings, knights, mentors, and lovers. True men. So that masculinity is no longer a crisis, nor is it considered toxic, but it is something that is so essential and recognized as so essential, and we're going to guide our young men and our older fellas on the way. Join us. Look, like I said, I'm involved, Greg's involved. We're all doing it ourselves. We're not throwing something at you that we're not doing ourselves. Join us. Visit warriorsaints.org right away. It's $8, dude. What more do you want? Like, we've made it perfectly accessible for everybody. Just do it. All right, tomorrow we'll be back again. We're going to talk about knights. Love ya. Hope you have a great day. Till then, keep walking on the way of the warrior saint.